What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Ascended Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Schuelke,
I'm Anthony Parra.
and this week we're hitting the intersection of power and presence. From viral trends that challenge what we believe to be real, to economic shifts reshaping the past we thought we had to walk, to hard questions about who controls your attention, your career, and even your biology. Not just scanning headlines, we're pulling signal from the noise and flipping it into fuel. That said, let's lock in. The first topic, Anthony, we got today is about something interesting most creators can relate to, the TikTok ban. So let's open with that. The US government has been pushing for a while to sell ByteDance and TikTok's platform in the US or face a full ban. And while that brews, creators aren't just waiting around, they're trying to figure out what to do next. So there's been a sharp spike in interest around Xiaohongshu, otherwise known as RedNote, a Chinese-born platform that's already dominant overseas. So have you seen this platform yet, Anthony? And are we moving platforms? What do you think's going on here?
I've never heard of that platform, and I don't think I know of anybody besides you and this being brought up that does know of that platform. So tell me more.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of creators around the last 2 weeks when everyone popped the ban start posting, hey, yeah, I'm making my Red Note account. It's been blowing up. I do think it is ironic because TikTok's being scrutinized over data privacy, and the replacement some are migrating to have even less regulation. It's also Chinese owned. So it forces us to ask, are we even chasing opportunity with this, or are we just trading one risk for another? It's kind of the same, right, with what's the ChatGPT replacement that everyone's been using. Have you heard about that one?
Another Chinese brand?
Yeah, the other AI that's been replacing ChatGPT that's supposed to be more efficient than it.
I couldn't name it, but yeah, I've heard stories.
Yeah, so obviously we have multiple different replacements going around, just in terms of the capabilities of Chinese technology, and obviously that can lead to data privacy issues. Some people are saying that we already give out enough of our data, so what's the point? Other people obviously are worried about U.S. more important infrastructure being set up on that because that limits us as a national security threat, things like that. I mean, essentially, whether or not TikTok goes dark in the US, the bigger question I think is, do we finally build something decentralized, or do we just keep handing power to the gatekeepers? Do you think it's possible to launch a platform that's owned by the community and the public instead of having this central office or organization running social media? Do you think that could be a potential solution for this?
Potential solution, for sure. I just don't know how feasible it would be and how long it would last. It's like you take Instagram, for example, and I'm not saying that this was a publicly owned app, but Instagram eventually got bought out by the bigger brand Meta, and you see now Meta as a sole company owns a lot. They own a larger share. The total platform is being used primarily by the U.S., but also worldwide. So it's like I think at a certain point you can develop something that would help solve this problem that would be owned by the public, operated by the public. But I just don't know how long it would last before somebody gets offered enough money to sell it to a bigger company that would then have the say and the scrutinization over it.
And it's just honestly nowadays it's honestly getting stressful because as a creator, right, you're like, well, I should be posting on Reels and YouTube Shorts and on my Instagram story, Snapchat, maybe TikTok. And now, I mean, would you jump ship to something like Xiaohongshu, or are you starting to question the entire platform game altogether? Is it just a race of which platform to get on next, or should we just honestly stick to one or two platforms and hit it hard there? I do think personally, I mean, if you're new, I think you should really develop a presence on one and then slowly start playing with just reposting content and cross pollinating your content across other means, right? Things like that. Clip platforms like Opus Clip and things like that I use regularly can do that for you, but I think that's just a good way to start. But I don't think you should necessarily be chasing the new platform unless you already have a ton of growth and leverage and you have the means and time to do that. That's just my take. I don't know about you, Anthony, but
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, I think it also depends on the type of content you're trying to produce. Because if you're going to go YouTube, like there's YouTube Shorts, but the YouTube Shorts community, the people that watch those is not the same as the people that view Instagram as frequently. I mean, pretty much every platform has a Shorts option, but let's say you want to make long form content. It's like, well, kind of your really only option would be YouTube, at least in the US. I'm not really familiar with international brands. I'm kind of, being based in the US, those are my biases, I guess. But, I think it just depends. And for me personally, developing my fitness brand, I'm starting on Reels because I think that's where the largest group of people for the kind of content I want to create resides. I mean, I'm just going to try that. And then eventually, like you said, as your capabilities increase, your knowledge of the game per se increases, then kind of expand and then leverage what you already have going on to help you build something a second time, but quicker.
Yeah, and it's really a snowball effect too, because you have to build the system that can be proven to get results on one platform first, and only then should you really talk about leverage and amplifying that presence across multiple platforms. But that's to at least be tested to work and to get comments and views and stuff. I've made the mistake too of having to just try to push content a lot and then try to go back and optimize it. But it would be better to just focus on the analytics and optimizing your presence and just get really good at content creation on one specific platform and then to try to look outward. Yeah, I mean, just be practical. Start with the best place that makes the most sense for you and kind of go outwards from there. And we'll just have to play this TikTok thing by ear and see what shakes out. You never know with national policy and things like that that could change at any time. But let's actually take that practicality aspect and shift that into the second kind of viral news section. Wall Street Journal profiled a Jeopardy champion who's holding a master's degree, but is living at home, rethinking his entire strategy. Not because he's lazy, but because the numbers don't lie. Between student debt, housing inflation, and a fragile job market, a lot of young men are hitting pause on traditional life milestones. Not just watching delayed adulthood, we're watching a redefinition of what success looks like. The grind until you move out at 22 model doesn't really match reality anymore. So the question is, does this trend of kind of staying at home longer that you're seeing reflect a moment of survival or a strategic pivot that's going to kind of reshape this young adult time frame? What do you think, Anthony, is going on here?
I've seen both. I have friends in both categories. I have friends that are 23, 24, still living at home. I have friends that left when they were 18, like I did. And then I have friends that kind of did something in the middle ground. But what I can say is that I don't think I've seen a set trend as far as the purpose behind doing that that's standard amongst all of them. I think generally the go-getters they tend to do things sooner. Like leaving at 18, let's do the traditional kind of lifestyle, go get your college education, get a job, which I'm not condoning or saying is something that the viewers should be doing. I'm just saying that's something that's pretty common, and it is what Caleb is saying is now being it's being transitioned per se into let's grind it. Let's take the time to first build something or find something worth my time maybe, and then move out. Honestly though, I think I can think of more people in the category of those that are waiting longer that are actually just trying to survive and have no idea what it is to move on to. And I think that speaks volumes about what you were just saying is with the combination of a fragile job market, and what the other, I can't remember everything you listed in that list, but those things combined, it kind of makes it more difficult. Housing prices, you said, to actually have set something up for yourself by the time you leave. So I think if I had to guess, of those that are staying home longer, I think it's a very small percentage of people that are saying, I'm doing this to strategically plan for the time in which I leave. And it's more of I have no idea what I want to do. What I had thought I want to do forever costs too much money. I'm just going to stay here and figure it out.
I think it's always been respectable to live below your means. And if you have, I mean, so obviously it depends on your family situation. If you have the means to, I think it's a really smart recalibration. And honestly, what you see is the biggest reasons people want to get out of the house so early is because a lot of times it's just vanity measures. Like I feel like I have to go to college. A lot of times that's just societal pressure because you want to look like you're doing something with your life. When I mean, you could go get a trade school job and stack cash and build leverage, invest in real estate, invest in entrepreneurship, whatever it's going to be. And a lot of the times you're going to want to leave your home early. And even though your parents might offer for you to stay, you're not going to want to take that just because you feel like you're falling behind compared to everyone else. But everyone's also in this same boat. It's this kind of a prisoner's dilemma, right? Of everyone thinking they have to make the move. When in reality, if you just make the most logical decision at that time in your life, you're going to, in 5 years, actually be ahead of those people because they're using all their gas to accelerate when they don't have anything backing that at the end of the day. They're running on an empty tank, and you can instead build up smartly and surpass them very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes I think about like, what would I want my children to do in the future? And honestly, I think I think that it's a really Western ideology to leave the house as soon as you turn 18. It's like a lot of other cultures and countries will stay as a family unit and achieve something together, whether it's like a family business or a family compound, a farm maybe. And you're staying to accomplish something together until you've had enough experience and you've made enough money or whatever it is that is required for you to finally move on and do your own thing, start your own family. But sometimes I think that maybe that might be, I won't take too much longer, but I think that might be the aspect you said about how it's a societal pressure, I think can kind of hinder people from achieving the true happiness they actually want to experience in the journey it takes to be successful. Like they just want that immediate success, and that is everybody's being told constantly that means going to college right out of high school. But truly, like we all just want happiness. So if it makes you more happy and it fulfills you to be with your family longer instead of leaving to go to accomplish something and then it's like you're done, but now I don't know what to do anymore. But what's the next thing? I haven't even taken time to figure that out. I just did what I was told I'm supposed to do. Whereas people staying home longer, I think it could be more fulfilling and it gives you more time to think that through.
That's a great take. That is a great take, and I'd like to I'll just end on that because I think that's a great point to make. Yes, I mean it really is just what does success look like now for men under 30? I mean, again, we can apply our parents' values, which is great, but that's a lens that, especially with the rate of change that you're seeing with technology, therefore with life, with development, with the new economy, with markets shifting so much, that taking views from 30 years ago that would work is very unlikely to still remain exactly the perfect route. So take always that parent's advice kind of with a grain of salt, especially if they're still offering something else like living at home. Be humble and don't feel like you have to be the person that you're showing off in your life. And when your friends ask if you're living with your parents and you have the opportunity, I would very proudly say yes if I could still do that. And for some of you, I think that would be the best move forward. So respect other people's journeys too. And on the flip side of that, if other people are just trying to stack cash and they have broader goals, don't just judge them at a surface level because you don't really understand where they're going a lot of times. And I think we fall into that trap a lot.
Right.
But let's move into that kind of development side. We're gonna talk about AI and tech for a second. This week, Meta announced a military partnership with defense tech company Anduril. The mission is to build an AI augmented helmet called EagleEye for US soldiers. We're talking battlefield ready AR smart overlays, such as like a visor that can show you everything. Threat detection, enhanced communication. This is essentially like the HUD screen from Call of Duty, right? This is Meta going full war tech. What are your thoughts on hearing something like that initially?
My initial thoughts when hearing any sort of joint venture between an organization as large as the Department of Defense and then an organization as large as Meta is like, just because I think that sometimes larger companies, the motives change from what they originally were when they were smaller, from helping people to making money. And I'm not going to target any specific company or say anything more than that. But I'm just saying, I just wonder. I guess that's kind of the price you pay, though, in order for innovation to happen. Because a company that starts out small isn't going to be able to spend the money on research and development to develop something as high tech as this and as effective and as battle ready, something that meets safety requirements by the Army. I guess whatever branch is using it. I assume Army because you said soldiers, but I don't know. I think that the technology itself, though, that's a super cool concept because I, for one, I'm really supportive of the idea of integrating AI, just because of how effective and helpful it's been in my own life to help with my endeavors in business, with my endeavors in community administration, my endeavors in work, and even just everyday life things. And I just use it on a really small scale on one platform, being OpenAI. I'm a proponent of seeing like how can we use this to its full potential as a tool. The only thing is like, at what point does it become like a computer is fighting wars for us? It's like, what's the point of the war anymore? If it's like, we're just like, what are we trying to accomplish if not monetary gain or power gain? If we're just so willing to like start wars and people don't even have to be involved in them anymore, and I'm not saying we're close to that point. I'm just saying that we're at that point, but I think we are getting closer by developing these kind of products. And I think maybe next might be something similar for like pilots. Like I know that there's already been a lot of experiments with the Air Force to experiment using AI drones that are flying. So unmanned aerial aircraft, where missions that usually would take 6 to 8 pilots in formation can now just be one pilot with 7 to 5 unmanned aircraft around it. It's kind of a scary thought, but the technology itself I think is super cool.
I kind of want to bring up another concern, not just that, but also when companies like Meta start supplying the military, where do we draw the line between consumer innovation and combat application? So essentially, is this about defense or is it about data? Right? Because that seems to be a big point for companies like Meta. Is this an evolution of patriotism, of advanced technology, or is it just another vector for profit for a big corporation? Like,
Yeah.
more importantly, actually, before you answer that, I think the biggest thing I'm getting to is we trust these platforms with our memories, with our DMs, and our faces. And now they're being contracted to build tactical advantage systems. So, how do you feel about companies like Meta building tech for warfare, knowing how much data they do have on all of us, now collecting it on the government's resources?
Yeah, I mean, this just goes back to my initial concern when I heard who was involved. I think that You said, is this a new level of patriotism and shown by a large company to help the United States in an effort to defend, or is this, using, are we just trying to gain more information and access to government systems to further the hold that we have on our users without them realizing it? I am of the mindset that it's probably the second thing. And I know the people don't like to hear that, and there's backlash when you say that, but it's like, I think that most people don't quite understand the level to which these massive companies like have control over us if they really wanted to execute. The problem is, or the thing that holds them back from that is like, what did they gain from leveraging that against you? I mean, most people are just average Joes, right? That there's nothing really that they can, even if you were committing a crime or had recordings or memories of you doing something you shouldn't, that's still way too small of a scale for a company that large to take a vested interest in.
Are
But
you gonna blackmail 500 million people?
yeah, yeah. But that's what I'm saying is at a certain point, like, where do they draw the line as to like, all right, this is enough. Like, we have enough information to destroy, or not destroy, but like to take control or to start putting things in their feed that make them think a certain way based on the intel I've received. And it's like, now we even have the intel that the government has on these same people. I mean, that's just kind of the name of their game. Like they make their money off knowing the most about each and every one of us that use their platforms. And I think it can get dangerous quick. And I think that we've seen that with companies in the past.
Now, again, just to reiterate for those listening, this is a partnership between Meta and a defense company. That doesn't mean they're doing business right now with the government. It means they have the capability to. So, while obviously the intent is to make battle helmets for soldiers, that's probably not going to be a very consumer product, right? So, they're obviously doing this to do business with the government. Nothing's happened yet, so can't really go further on the topic, nor should we, obviously, with our positions, and get too political or anything like that. But that's basically just being aware of these issues is very important to understanding what's really going on, and obviously taking that second or third degree level of thinking and saying, okay, well, this is a fact that's happening. Why is it happening? That's kind of what we just talked about. Why do you think, what is their bigger goal beyond that? And like when you ask why enough, you can actually see kind of a lot of the bigger visions of some of these big companies and where they're trying to go with the world, especially with data, which is the new goal of the century, honestly, where we're going with things. Collecting data is going to allow access to people's patterns of behavior and therefore their wallet. You'll know what they want, when they want it, and why they want it. And you can position your product in a way that makes them see it as the only outcome. And that's going to lead to them always giving you their money. That's where we're at now, but just be aware of when you could be taken advantage of and when these opportunities might be used against you too. I just want to help protect you guys out there as consumers. And with that said, let's transition again. So let's talk about our health and human performance. This is a topic I knew we would get to at some point. It's one that I've done a lot of research on. I know, Anthony, you probably looked into it too with your coaching, but we're going to talk about bioperformance because there's a silent epidemic flying under the radar. In young men, in the last few decades, testosterone levels have been severely tanking. Reports show levels down 20 to 30% compared to a few decades ago. And most of us are about at half of the testosterone our grandfathers had. And we're not talking boomers. These are guys in their 20s and early 30s when it should be at peak levels. What do you think of that, first of all? Why do you think that's happening?
So interesting you bring this up. I actually just got my testosterone tested. I don't know if you can see the results on my phone here. I pulled up all my files. It's too bright, but I got so excited when you said that. I was like, no way, I just got this tested. Initial thoughts? Yeah, I mean, it's like a statistical fact. There's like no getting around the fact that, our thing about your grandpas, for somebody our age, so we're in the 20 to 25 age range, our great grandfathers, even grandfathers, probably had more testosterone around like their middle age than we did when we were like 18 to 25, which is not good. That's not people. I think this is a widely talked about topic, but I don't really understand. I don't know that people quite understand the implications, what that means for men. And I think that there's a lot of factors that go into. I'm actually going to pause myself. I'm going to start talking about things that are not related. Let's keep it focused on what you had in the plan.
Let me read some stats actually. So sedentary life, chemical exposure. I know you see a lot of things like don't touch receipts. They've actually sent so many studies. Receipts have so many chemicals on the coating they use on things like that.
Yeah.
Poor sleep is a really big one. So really it's not just not getting enough sleep. It's more of going to bed at times that are irregular to a current pattern. Chronic stress, they're all culprits, but it does run deeper. There's a cultural shift. There's less physical challenge, even in the military. And Anthony, I can agree to that. There's less sun. People are indoors more. They're sitting in their AC. They're playing video games. There's more dopamine hits. There's more numbing. Pain and discipline are becoming less common and therefore obviously more rare, which becomes an advantage to be disciplined. But you got, as much as it helps you gain faster and makes you look better, we still want society to have a value of this, because we're not going to exist if we don't continue having discipline and working in ways that, especially as men, increase our testosterone. They're saying that's one of the biggest threats to human existence. Like you have climate change, things like that. You also have a potential war and nuclear war and things like that. Testosterone decreases have been among the top causes of potential human extinction moving forward. And we have to be very careful about how we play this. And it's kind of a silent factor that's lurking in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if your testosterone as a male is like everything to you. It affects all of your habits, and your habits also vice versa affect your testosterone levels. So it's like Caleb was saying, how you sleep, how you recover, how you train, how difficult your life is. It all kind of just boils down to what he was saying, where it's like the average male's life is not as difficult to achieve, or it's not that you have to have a difficult life to have high testosterone, but it's like the set standard for like what you have to achieve used to be that you go out and you work. The diet is probably a large thing that played a role into why our relatives had higher testosterone than us now too. Like you see endocrine disrupting chemicals and microplastics in our food. They're just commonplace because large companies can produce these things cheaper with those added ingredients than they can with like real whole food ingredients. And they're like in everything, right? It's kind of impossible to ignore. Everything's made of plastic, right? Our cars run on petroleum, which is a plastic base, or it was what plastic is made of. It's everywhere. It's in our food, it's in everything. So you have to be really conscious to like avoid this issue, or to like bring your levels back to what a normal range would be. And those kind of change depending on your body size and stature with your habits as well. But I think we're not to a point yet where it's like everyone is essentially like testosterone doesn't play much of a role in their body. I think we're just on a steady decline though, and it's been almost exponential just in the last few decades too. Not even in like the last 2 centuries. It's just been pretty much since the endocrine disrupting additives have been put in our food, and then also the habits of lifestyle as a secondary force are also declined.
And I think a lot of it would get fixed if we hold businesses more accountable to their practices. I think kind of actually helping do some things to fix that people are doing to fix the climate and things like that, the environment, are also, those practices are also fixing this as well too. I mean, think about like products on Temu. A lot of you have this Temu addiction nowadays of ordering these like cheap couple dollar plastic trinkets, right? Like getting your clothing from Shein, which has a ton of microplastics in. And even if you're a woman and you're buying like Shein leggings that have an insane amount of microplastics on compared to more US based, more regulated manufacturing practices, if you put those in a washing machine with men's clothing, they're going to get into men's clothing, and men are going to wear those like underwear and things like that. It's going to decrease their testosterone levels. And you're wondering kind of why this is. A lot of these there's so many causes to this too. A lot of, like water, right, has a lot of birth control remnants in, because people flush and urinate down the toilets and things like that. And that gets into the water system because we can't clean that. There's all these, there's not like one sole cause. And so that makes it really hard to fix, because we can't just stop or do something more. We have to do a ton of things at the same time. So we can't, there's a million threads we could pull to fix it. And so where do you start? You start with fixing all the plastic production. Do you start with, what's going into food? It's a hard problem to address, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think to answer your question quickly, where you start, as individuals, unless you just happen to be the CEO of one of these massive companies that is, that should be held accountable for what they're doing to the populations, which you're probably not. You kind of have to approach this as like an individual level. And like Caleb was saying, it would be too much for you to just try and fix all at one time. But the first thing you should do is start training. Men respond a lot better, and they respond in a way that they're biologically wired to resistance training. So we're talking strength, hypertrophy. Just go lift weights and go run and and you can incorporate any other kinds of cardio you want, or what other training styles it is. It doesn't matter. You just need to move, and it needs to be difficult for you, and you need to recover from that. And from that, I think that's the first step to raising your testosterone as a male, is actually go exert yourself. Do what your body was biologically created to do.
Yeah. And this complements to obviously a much bigger problem with low T means lower ambition, means lower confidence, and obviously lower fertility. Things that we as humans to drive ourselves forward, to make more money, to make connections. If you're wondering why these are issues you're facing, well, look at your lifestyle. Are you involving it? I mean, obviously, you can't can't detox from all the microplastics and the endocrine disruptors in your body right now. I mean, you can go to a sauna, sure, but there's other things you can do. Maybe you're watching pornography and you're limiting your masculine energy and things like this. If you're not stopping habits that are very severely wrong for you that you know you're doing, it's going to result in the same thing. You're not going to get confident. You're not going to feel like you have control over yourself, and you're going to feel you're suffering. When you build habits, like you said, especially strength training is one of the best ways for testosterone versus any other type of, like, if you're building these habits, you feel like you get the control back. And although it might just be, maybe it's just placebo effect at the end of the day, but that control makes it easier to make more decisions, to make your health better from that point forward, instead of just feeling like you're a victim to all of these external factors. Puts you back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's bring this into the personal development side. I want to close on something personal and also powerful. Dopamine control is kind of becoming the new front line of discipline. And we've talked about dopamine before, but I want to spend one more week talking about a slightly different aspect of it. Every scroll, every like, every reward loop in your pocket is reshaping your brain. We're seeing more guys talk about it, the dopamine detoxes, the phone fasts, and the realignment routines. This isn't about quitting tech. It's about reclaiming control. This means reprogramming when and how you earn rewards for yourself, and then delaying gratification on purpose. Your focus gets sharper because of it. Your mood gets cleaner, and then your results actually become real because you understand the steps it takes. It's like guessing and checking, right? Like doing the multiplication table. You say, I think 9 times 7 is 63 versus actually knowing it's the case. In one it's just luck, and the other one, you know that you have control over solving things on your own, right? So being able to build discipline and habits that you made decisions over, instead of just having to struggle through work and that's kind of a passive thing you do, actually rebuilds that loop and makes it easier to do everything else we just talked about in this podcast. So I mean, hitting the gym, building your testosterone back, reclaiming your focus, moving when you move out of your house, things like that. So I guess on your end, Anthony, what do you think is often, like, do you think if you can give me a percentage of the time your habits or your decisions are running your day? Let's say what percent of your day is your decisions versus your habits? If you just had to take a guess, like, let's just pick a random hour and say how much of what I'm doing I'm just programmed to do versus I'm actively choosing.
Man, the first hour I thought of was like, we'll just talk about the first hour of my day, and that's almost purely habit. And then I thought about, let's think about like sometime in the middle. I think it's probably mostly habit too. I'd probably have to say that 80 to 85% of my daily actions are taken out of habit at this point than decision.
How did those habits become habits?
Just repetition. It was just either what makes the most sense to me, what's the easiest, which I think that some of those things make sense and I should keep doing that, but some of them are just like me being lazy. And probably what feel the best, if I had to guess. It's just a few of those things.
Get yourself to commit to them.
I don't know. I don't even think I really thought about committing. It was just I started doing something and it worked, and so I keep doing it and I pay no mind to it.
Going back requires some level of discipline, would you say?
Yeah, I'd agree.
To continue doing it, right? Because I think discipline is more of what prevents you from stopping rather than what gets you to start. I think a lot of times, I think what gets you to start is motivation, and you'll start a habit because you feel good about it. But discipline is more of what prevents you from stopping rather than continuing something. I think we think about it more like that. I want to stop doing. I was just at the gym before this, and I was doing my sets of planks, and I'm like, well, I have 30 more seconds, and I don't want to do this. But discipline is what prevents me from stopping the exercise more than I'm thinking about, more than motivation is what's saying, okay, come on, you got 30 more seconds. Discipline is like countering the negative, and so a lot of times to do that, we need to think about how we can remind ourselves that this is in alignment with who we want to be, and therefore we don't even have the option. So when you limit that option by not even allowing yourself to consider it as a possibility, that's where you see a lot of commitment to that. So, like, again, you have to get up for work because you have to work at a certain time in the morning. You don't have the choice. Something is making you do that, and so you can't choose to stay in. But if you do that for other things, right, like if you don't allow yourself to skip the gym because of some other reason, because you have to cross it off your to-do list, or you have some sort of means to keep you accountable to it. That's where you build the discipline. That's where I found, at least. I don't know if you have any specific habits you do to make sure you hold yourself accountable, but like
Um,
with Vika,
I've set times where I check my calendar, and it's not like my calendar doesn't get booked that often with things that are irregular. It's mostly a realignment of like, hey, you got all these thoughts going on, this happened today, but it's like, let's not forget the things that you need to do every day. Like I have sections blocked off for time with my wife to make sure that she's never feels neglected by me. I have time sectioned off for my daily devotion. I have time sectioned off for work, time sectioned off for work after work, time sectioned off for the gym. So it's like, I know that these are on there and they don't really change week to week or even day by day, but it's like the habit of mind to come look at it kind of centers me on like what I need to get done.
do you think using tools like your reminders app on your phone, using a journal, do you think that's some people would call that shortcutting discipline because it's not you reminding yourself, and they wouldn't call that pure discipline. They call that like assisted discipline. Do you think that that's still something to go for, or that you should be the one to only hold yourself accountable, not rely on all these tools on your phone? Or do you think it doesn't matter?
Well, I think I sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that most people don't have the actual amount of true discipline required to make sure that everything they want to start or, like you said, continue doing or not quit actually follows through. So I think that I don't see an issue with using like yeah, maybe in your mind you can't say that, oh well, it was all me and my work, then I did this from the ground up on myself, no help. Does that really matter if you achieve the end goal? I don't think so.
What would you? I think I know what you're gonna say, but what would you recommend is the best place to build that discipline up? If somebody is, let's say let's imagine the extreme case. You're 280 pounds. You're 24 years old. Still do live with your parents, but not in a good way where you're doing it strategically. They're yelling at you to get out of the house. You just can't afford anything other than junk food. You don't have. You have 2 hours a day. Maybe you just have this bad habit of sitting on the couch and playing video games. What would you do? What would be your first move?
My first move. No, I feel like there's supposed to be an answer I'm supposed to say because you said you feel like you know what I'm going to say. Man,
What would be the first thing you'd have them do to build discipline?
to build discipline. I'd set up a calendar or set up some sort of reminder system. I don't know.
Well, I just did kind of change my question because I was going somewhere else with it. So maybe that's why I said it would apply to you. But you have to give yourself some sort of win. I think they teach us that in the military. Basic training. I mean, the first day was like make your bed, get your stuff organized, put your clothing away the right way, put your stuff together. And so a lot of times for me, when I feel like I'm losing it, I'll go because I lose it too. Everyone kind of loses balance. To pull yourself back, well, the first step obviously is just being conscious of it. And so I would first check to make sure that person even knows they're out of balance. To them, they might be like, I don't know, life seems good to me. It's like, well, is it? I mean, the average BMI for your weight group is not even close to where you're sitting right now. Do you value good health? I mean, you'd have to figure out what their values are, whether or not they align with that. And if there's a difference between if they think that value is there already and versus where that like in good health they should be and things like that, I would first you'd have to break through that gap and say, well, why do you think the life you're living right now is of value in good value to what you should strive to be? If you know that this can lead to you having a heart attack, you falling asleep at work, you not doing the best work, like show me the evidence that you think that this is going to be a better course of life. And you have to break that belief, and then only then can you start rebuilding. And I think that has to be through like cleaning your room, making your bed. It can't be anything too overwhelming or you're going to stress that person out. I've seen like, that's like where their parents will be like, this kid's broken, send them to boot camp to like rewire them. But a lot of times they'll fall out of boot camp because those same kids, you can't just fire hose them. It doesn't work like that. Because they could always leave. And a lot of people will kind of reject that at first. So unless you make it really hard for them to back out, you usually need to start by escalating over time, just
Yeah.
like the gym.
You have to speak their language. You have to figure out, like you said, what's important to them, and then how can I frame success? How can I frame making better decisions and developing good habits in a way that they want to achieve that for themselves?
I think that's a good point to end on. I mean, that's a wrap, I guess, on episode 6. We've covered or episode 5. It's episode 5.
Yeah, we're up 5.
I'm getting excited for next week already. But we've covered the algorithm wars, the career detours, military tech crossovers, hormonal warfare, and the nervous system reboot. This isn't about trends again. I want you guys to think about these things and take back your systems, right? Understand where you're being challenged in business and culture, in your body, in your mind. That's why we do this podcast. If it sparked anything for you or just something, just lock it in. hit follow, subscribe, like the podcast or YouTube if you're on here. If you're ready to turn these insights into actual income and impact, that's what we're here to do. This is the awareness, but we have all the systems built to teach you that, to use automated AI systems, to have the courses to learn how to do it. Anthony and I are active in the digital syndicate. We're recording this podcast right now. That's where we hand you the tools and the tactical solutions, the playbooks, right? So if you are in that early stage and you have nothing, you don't even have an offer yet or know what you want to do to make money, we'll teach you that. So we're going to help you build the system and then scale it like an operator in any single niche. You guys know where to find me at Caleb Schuelke on Instagram. Anthony, what's your fitness?
Pump_para. Give me a follow. I have like 81 followers. I finally broke the 80 followers barrier. It took me a long time. Yeah.
I wish we just broke the 200 member mark in the free community. So, guys, we're building that up right now. We have ways for you to make crazy amounts of money helping us promote our digital products and services. Anthony's working on that right now. We also have content clipping challenges. We're paying $3 per 1,000 views. That's insane for the market right now, and how much you can get paid to just make TikToks on your phone. We're going to maybe even increase that over time. We're going to have additional challenges. We'll be buying. I might look at buying out Instagram accounts from you guys if you want to make pages to promote us, so we can help you make money doing that. There's going to be a ton of ways to make money in that community, and it's free to join. You can start as soon as tonight. So don't just learn the moves, make your move. That's what I'm saying. Anthony, any last words?
Nope. I think you covered everything. Yeah, like you said, not only are we giving you the tools to set yourself up to create your own personal brand, coaching business, whatever it is you want, but even in the meantime, while there's nothing else for you to do, we have ways for you guys to make money instantly. It's kind of a no-brainer. So even from the free community, you don't even have to be part of the paid one.
Well, this is the Ascended Podcast. Once again, I'm rooting for you. Let the world feel your presence. We'll see you guys next week.